Hope you're having a great day, afternoon, or evening, depending on when or even where you're listening to this. Um, have you guys ever had just a season, maybe a few months, a year, some years, where it just seemed like nothing ever goes your way? It's just one thing after another. Well, here's a thought. It could actually be Yahweh testing you. And I want to talk to you today about my most current test and trial this past summer. All right, let's get into it. All right, so this summer, it was quite an interesting time for me. Now, first and foremost, I do have a disclaimer. I'm fully aware of the fact that the entire planet is going through a pandemic. So please understand, this is not a woe is me, boo-hoo, listen to my story type thing. This is meant to be an encouragement for someone who might find themselves in a similar situation. Not the exact same situation, but a testing is what I mean. And also, please understand that what I'm about to describe is completely first world problems. I mean, realistically, when I think about my brothers and sisters around the globe, nothing I went through this summer can compare to what they are currently enduring. So, I just want to put that out there. So, that being said, I was shown who I was this summer. Well, yeah, who I was. That's appropriate, yeah. So what do I mean by that? Well, I gave my life to Yeshua when I was 24. I'm 38 now. And I didn't know what I didn't know. What I thought I knew was completely wrong. And that's including who I claim to worship. I remember in 2019, so it was 2008 when I gave my life to Yeshua. In 2019, I woke up one morning, and this is after a Sunday service where one of the ministers had prayed over me. I heard Ruach HaKodesh, that's Holy Spirit, tell me to go to the front and ask for prayer. I told the minister exactly what it was the Holy Spirit told me. And she prayed over me. And the very next day I woke up, and I can't describe to you what it like. It was like the presence of the Lord. It was like Yahweh's presence was invading the room that I was in. And my eyesight, I saw things so clearly. And when I did my morning Bible study, things that typically didn't make sense to me before were starting to make sense to me. And I didn't know at the time what had happened, because prior to that, let's just put it this way, I didn't know who Yeshua truly was. I knew of him, but I didn't know him. So I didn't have a true relationship with him like I thought I did. And that day that I just described, that was the beginning of my relationship with him. So anyway, so now we're going to pick up from where the last episode left off. Well, not where it left off, but this is going to be going into a little bit more detail of when I was sent away for the summer. So let me kind of describe to you what had happened prior to me going away. I had moved in with my father because of the pandemic. Where I was staying, it was hard to find a place, so I moved in with my dad. And it was convenient for the time, got me a job, and toward the end of my first stint with my father, I had gone on a 40-day liquid fast, and I felt great. Obviously not during the fast, but afterwards, I felt joy and peace, and everything was just all dandy. And then I heard the word from Yahweh that I was supposed to go away to this other place. And, first thing I thought was, okay, I prepared myself and now he's about to send me away to use me. How completely naive was I? It's not why he sent me. So I had made plans with a friend of mine that I have known for almost 20 years. And in my eyes, everything was set in stone. I had the finances that I needed. I had a place to stay when I got there while I looked for my own place. And even after I got there, 3 days later, I had a job. So far, so good. I'm like, yeah, this is going down. Everything's great. And then everything started to crumble around me. None of the plans that I had set in place worked out. There is a part of the story involving the young woman that I had moved in with that I am going to leave out, simply because I'm just not that type of person. I haven't spoken to this person as to whether I can use some of this information, and honestly, I feel like it would be kind of damaging to them. So I'm just going to let you know that things did not work out, and that eventually I had to send my son to his father's, and Yahweh told me to move out of their apartment. Now, mind you, I still didn't have my own place. However, from the time I got there until the time I moved out, I had been promoted to the front desk manager at the hotel that I was working at. Now, one of the things that I experienced was discrimination. So everybody that knows me knows that I can't stop talking about Yahweh. So it doesn't take long to know who I am, or at least what I believe, or who I believe in, I should say. So I had coworkers that had an arrangement. I'm not going to go into details, but they were able to live in the hotel, and the amount that they had negotiated to pay would come out of their paycheck. So in the midst of me working there, I had asked for this same arrangement on multiple occasions, and not only was I denied, just nobody ever would give me an answer. Like, it went from asking me if I could pay this much to can I pay this much, but never like a solid answer. And I'm a persistent person, but at the same time, I also said, you know what, it's in Abba's hands, so I didn't push it too much, but I made mental notes, but whatever, it is what it is. So there were nights where I did have to sleep in my car. And the reason why I said it was first world problems is because I would get up at 6 a.m., go to my gym. There's the first world problems. Work out for about 30 minutes to an hour. And then I would take a shower at the gym. And from there, because I didn't have to be at work until 3 p.m., sometimes I would do food deliveries, and then I would go into work. So money was not really an issue, although I was spending more money than I was bringing in, because there were several occasions where I did rent out a hotel room. I wasn't able to do it at my location because that was against the rules, but some of the hotels in the surrounding location. The only thing is, during the times, so this summer where I was, one of the ways that I know for sure that I was being tested was even some of the natives said the weather was crazier than normal this summer. I learned what a microburst was this summer. Never heard of this weather phenomenon until this summer. This past summer, I should say. I was literally in the middle of a food delivery, and all of a sudden it was just sheets of rain, blinding white sheets of rain. The trees looked like they were about to bend and snap off. A transformer blew next to me, and 5 minutes of driving in the same direction, and all of a sudden I was in sunshine, like crazy. And I looped back around because my customer's house was in the direction that the storm was in, and the storm was gone. And oh, I forgot, there was hail too. So mind you, I have never been in a tornado before. I've come close, but never actually been in one. So I thought I was actually in, like, driving in the middle of a tornado, because hail was coming down, the wind was blowing real hard and crazy, transformers are blowing up, it's blinding sheets of white rain. Like, so I'm literally, like, if you can imagine someone driving down the street in their car in this, screaming the name of the Lord at the top of their lungs. That is what I look like. I promise. Yahweh was probably like, this daughter of mine is something else. It was probably very comedic. But yeah, so that was one of the storms that, like, one of the natural physical storms I had to go through when I was up there. And they were just coming, like, it's like every time I turn around, it was a storm. It even got to the point where I couldn't do my food deliveries anymore, because every time I would get ready to go out, storm would pop up out of nowhere. And these storms were producing tornadoes. So it wasn't like, oh, well, it's just rain, just go out and deliver. No. Then there was a time that it was raining. It wasn't a storm. It was a normal rain, but the runoff system on the highways is not that great where I was. So I'm riding down the road. It's a 2-lane interstate. And up ahead of me, this car enters onto the interstate. They wound up behind the vehicle that's in the lane next to me. I'm in the inside lane, and there's a truck on the outside lane, and this vehicle winds up behind the truck. And once we get a little ways past the on-ramp, I move over in front of the truck because I hear Ruach HaKodesh tell me to slow down. So I move over in front of the truck in the slow lane, and then I slow down a little bit. So anybody that wants to go fast can go fast in the fast lane. I'm not one of those drivers. Well, as soon as I did that, the car that had just gotten on the interstate comes from behind the truck and goes to go around me, and we're about to go underneath this overpass, and all of a sudden they hit this standing water and they start hydroplaning, and they literally spun into my lane. But if I had been going the speed that I was previously, they would have hit me. But because I had slowed down, they spun back and forth in the interstate in front of me, and I was able to brake without them hitting me. And once they landed in the ditch, I pulled my car over, and so did another vehicle that had been behind us. And we got out in the pouring rain to check on this dude. Like, he was in this deep ditch. Like, whole front end of his car was ripped off. Then there was a time that I was almost T-boned. Like, I could go on and on and on. In the midst of it, though, Yahweh did give me little nuggets. Like, I wound up talking to this couple at my hotel, and I don't remember how it came up, but I wound up telling them my son's name. My son has a biblical name. And when I told them, their eyes lit up, and they were like, "That's a biblical name." I said, "Yeah." And the guy, the husband, he was like, "I'm a pastor." And I was like, "Oh, look, this is wonderful." He was like, "Yeah, we're pastors," and they were pastors in the state next to the state that I was in. And I was like, "Okay, that's awesome." So after we talked for a while, they go upstairs, and it just so happened that they were actually in Bible study at his church, in the part that actually mentions the biblical character that my son is named after. So I was like, oh, okay, that's pretty cool, you know. So they go upstairs. About 15 minutes later, the front desk rings, and it's the wife. And she's like, mind you, this is a Friday night. I know I was not able to convince my boss to let me have the full Shabbat off. So I did have to work Friday nights, but I had all of Saturday off. So I took that and ran with it, because prior to that, the job that I had to fight for Shabbat. So I took that. But yeah, so the next day was Shabbat, and she had asked, she was like, can you meet us here at the hotel? The Lord told us to give you something. So I'm like, let me pray about it and I'll let you know. I did pray. Yahweh told me to go back to the hotel. I was smart though. I met them right in front of the entrance. We talked for a little bit. They handed me this card, and I started reading it, and when I opened it up, it was $1,000 in cash inside of the card. And I don't know, I was taken aback. Like, these people don't know me. And then when I read the inside of the card, the inside said, I wish I had the card with me right now so I can read it to you. It's out in my car and it's dark out there. I'm not going out there right now. But anyway, they said that the Lord had told them that I was his daughter and that he wanted them to give that to me. No strings attached. They didn't ask me for anything in return. They just said that they could tell that I was a good woman and I was a woman of God. That's what they told me. So I was like, wow, okay. So needless to say, that was an amazing way to start off my Shabbat, my Sabbath. So then it really started to get bad. Because of the storms, a lot of the natives would lose power in their homes. The hotels did not lose power, but they were booked full because people needed rooms. So it became harder and harder for me to find a place to stay. In the midst of this, mind you, I'm not really making any money anymore doing my food deliveries because of the monstrous storms coming through. So nobody really can go out and drive in that type of weather. I mean, you might get sucked up by a tornado. Who wants that? Trying to make $5. It's not worth it. So I wasn't bringing in the money that I needed to. The money I had in my savings was now dwindling away, and I'm trying to keep, faith, because I'm like, I'm trying not to look at my bank account and go, oh my God, I'm not going to have any money, because I kept reminding myself, Yahweh is your Father. He is your provider. Money is not your God. I kept telling myself this, but on the side, I was like, but I still need to have some money in order to put down a down payment. But then the Ruach HaKodesh was like, you don't need anything but me. So after I would have my little temper tantrum and my panic attack, then I would calm down and I'm like, okay, well, I would literally just throw my hands up. I'd be like, you know what? Your will, have your way. I found myself having many, many temper tantrums. I was like a breastfeeding newborn separated from their mother. That's how I was. Like, the amount of entitlement and selfishness and how spoiled I was. And in hindsight, I can look back and I'm like, that's true for a lot of us who claim to serve and worship Yahweh. Unfortunately, we've been taught that he is this bubblegum genie in a bottle that is here to grant us all of our heart's desires, and he's just an accessory to our dreams and our plans, and that is a lie from the pits of hell. I hate to tell you. Nothing about this life is about us. We were created by an almighty God who has a will and a plan, And he is gracious enough to include any of us in it. Any and everything that he does for us is because he wants to, but it's not because he has to. He does not need us, but he showed me this summer that I need him. I could not find not one place. Had the money. I was front desk manager. I was making good money. Credit is fairly decent. I mean, I even had the recommendation letters from my manager. I had everything in place that I needed, but couldn't get a place to stay. I even had one woman tell me that in order to rent out this $800 apartment, which, by the way, the money I was making, I could afford the $800 apartment just fine. She said I was approved, but I either had to put down a $2,000 deposit or I had to have a family member with a 750 or above credit score who makes 5 times the rent co-sign for me. To which I just replied, so basically I didn't get approved. Because I'm thinking to myself, we're in the middle of a pandemic, lady. Like, anybody that might have had those met those requirements as far as the family member co-signer is concerned probably doesn't meet those stipulations now. Like, it's a lot of people losing their houses, their cars, their jobs. I mean, that's enough to drop that credit score. And that was just one of many places that I got denied. And I was beginning to get frustrated because I would cry out to Abba, what do you want me to do? You're not answering me. I don't know what you want me to do. I'm stuck out here. And that's when my true self came out. I don't know if you listened to episode 2, but if you did, I was talking about crying out to Abba and not having a cookie cutter Christian relationship. And what I mean by that, let me elaborate for a second. A lot of times we are taught and feel like we have to approach the throne of Yahweh with this, "Oh Father who sits in heaven on your throne and looks down low at us peasants, who's greater than any and everything that ever was and ever is. Your majesty reaches far beyond the edges of the universe." We're taught that is how we're supposed to approach the Almighty God. And while that sounds all good and dandy, that's phony. That's so phony. And let me explain to you why I'm saying that. If I had said that to him in the midst of what I was really feeling on the inside, which was anger and frustration and irritation and entitlement, if I had expressed that to him instead of what I was truly feeling, I would have made a mockery out of his presence. I would have been standing in front of the all-knowing God, lying to him about who I am and what I felt. Because the truth is, I'm about to make some people clutch their pearls. I was mad at him. Why did you send me up here to make me go through this? When I tell you I understood why the Israelites were saying what they were saying in the wilderness. I literally felt like them. Why did you leave me out of my comfort where I was? I had a place to stay. I had a good job. I had my son. Everything was going fine. Then you sent me up here and now it's just lose, 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 lose. Storm, 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 storm. Child, 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 child. I was mad. It's exactly how the Israelites sounded when he took them out of Egypt. I mean, everything was fine and dandy while he was performing those miracles with the pillars of fire and all the other stuff, parting the Red Sea. But then when they had to actually walk in that wilderness, when things got real, when reality settled in, then it was like, oh, so when you said you wanted me to walk with you, you meant I was actually going to have to go through some stuff. Got you. So you're actually not a genie in a bottle. Got you. So the Bible isn't about me and how I can get to heaven. Oh, okay. Gotcha. Wow. So it's not about living my best life now or the 7 streams of income. It's okay. This is what I had to unlearn many lies. And mind you, I hadn't fallen for a whole bunch of the lies that's out there, but that I still had fallen for quite a few. But one thing that I remember saying to him prior to him sending me up there was, show me who you are. Then when I got there, I had the audacity to say this prayer out loud, out of my mouth. Abba, I want to be possessed by your spirit. How many times do we make vows and say things to him out of pure emotionalism? And then when he actually starts to do things, or he starts to test us to see if we're ready to receive what it is that we asked for, and then we're like, what is this? Oh, the devil, the devil, the devil. Let me tell you something. Stop blaming the devil for everything. The devil is an opportunist, and he will take the opportunity to use whatever you got going on in you to attack you. But let me understand. Let me explain something. You have things going on in you that need to come out of you. In my first episode, I was talking about child let go. And that was talking about all the things that was spoken over you that wasn't true, that we're still living according to someone else's truth about us. Now, just take that and think about all of the mentalities and disorders and trust issues and hurts and pains and whatnot that formed in us. See, some of us have trust issues that has nothing to do with the people that are currently in our life. It was seeds that was planted in us, sometimes from childhood, that never got addressed. They just sat in the far reaches of our heart. And now that we're adults, they're in full-blown manifestation. And the first time we see something ugly and negative and horrific come out of us, we say, oh, it's the devil. We got to cast it out. Let me tell you something. The heart of man is desperately wicked. Okay? Desperately wicked. And that's Yah's word. That's Yahweh's word. He said that. He showed me this summer. You know, a lot of us like to think, oh, I'm such a good person, and, I don't do that. I even said in the last episode, I've always been, a servant. I've always been that type of person that likes to serve people. And that was true. But my motives behind serving, it made me feel good. It had nothing to do with the person. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's so much that you can, it's so much you can add into that. Like, your motive behind serving, your motive behind doing good things can even be sinful. Yahweh looks at our hearts. He don't care about your degrees. He don't care about how well you can read or speak Greek and Hebrew. He don't care about how long you have called yourself whatever you call yourself, Christian or whatever. He don't care about any of that. He cares about your heart posture. What is your heart posture towards him? What is your heart posture towards your fellow man? Because when you have the correct heart posture, then he can use you. Then you can know who you really serve. See, what he did for me this summer was he circumcised my heart. He showed me everything that was in there that I didn't know was in there. Because on my 40-day fast before going where he sent me, I saw surface things and I handed those over to him. I thought everything was done and over with. And he said, okay, now let's get down to the deep cleaning. What I had done was a spring cleaning. He was like, no, we got to do this deep cleaning. And he started rooting out those things that we like to call the devil, but it's really us, because sometimes we're afraid to admit the fact that we might actually be that evil, wicked person that we claim to not be. That time that person hurt you and you had that vision flash through your mind of you strangling them until they couldn't breathe? And yeah, I'm talking real now, because we all know that we've had those feelings, those thoughts, those visions. Those are seeds. And even though you didn't carry it out, that seed was planted in your heart. And Yahweh was gracious enough to reach in and pull it out of me. Now again, I'm not saying that I'm just 100% better and that's it, hallelujah, I'm healed. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is he showed me who I really was, and it humbled me. When you see exactly what's really in your heart, it has a way of sitting you down and looking at life and your creator totally different. It made me go, wow, you loved that? You loved me when I had that in me? You chose me when I was walking around with that in me? It really does sit you down. And what it did several things, but one of the things that it did was it caused me to show my fellow man more grace, more mercy, more love. Because now I know that this is what's truly in our hearts. Maybe not the same thing, but you get the gist of it. We're all walking around with this gunk in us, built up over years, that's never been dealt with. And the other thing that it did for me was it showed me that in those moments where I do see me acting in a way that's unbecoming of him, to immediately hand it over. It made me more aware of me. So even now when things upset me, or when people, let's say people, when people upset me, I go away privately and have a conversation with my Heavenly Father, so that when I return to these people's presence, I can represent him the correct way. Now, here's the thing. I am a transparent person, so that doesn't mean I might not tell that person, that I had to go pray. That's just me. That's how I am. I fully believe in transparency. I feel like it's very honest. I feel like it's integral. And that's just how I was built. I've always been that way. So I guess that's one of the good things that was always instilled in me. But the whole point was, it taught me to remove me from the equation. Now, I don't get it right 100% of the time. I have coworkers that might be listening to this that are like, yeah, buddy. I don't get it right 100% of the time. But I get it right more so now than I did in the past. So if you find yourself in one of those places where it just seems like, and the whole time, I left this part out, the whole time I was where I was and I was crying out to him, ever so often I would hear him say, I have a place for you. And I would be like, well, where is it? And then he would get silent again. But yeah, he was circumcising my heart. And what it did was it prepared me to receive the truth of who he is. So basically, in a nutshell, he put me in my place so his will be done on earth as it is in heaven. I hope this blessed you. I know it was longer than normal, but every single detail of what I said needed to be said. I'm sure I'm leaving some things out. While I was away, he did place me around a group of people at a church, and they were amazing women of God. One of them, more specifically, Sadie's. I'm going to shout her out because she is a tremendous service a servant of Yahweh. She truly does have a heart to serve people, and she was a godsend this past summer. Truly, I mean, she still truly is, but she really was a godsend. And those ladies actually gave me a going away lunch. It made me feel so special because I typically don't have people do things like that for me. You know, even with my birthdays, I think I've had one birthday party, maybe two, possibly three in my entire life. Most of the time people just forget about it. You know, I've left other places and nobody threw me going away party. Not saying they have to, but I'm just saying, like, they made me feel special. And even that group of women were used to heal me of my trust issues with people because of past hurts and friendships, and even the hurt that I was going through with the friendship of where I was, because, you know, that was the person I was friends with, someone for almost 20 years, and that's who I had went up there to live with. So there was a hurt there as well. But I just want you guys to understand how amazing Yahweh truly is. But it's for his will, it's for his purpose, because he has a plan. And he had to prepare me to receive him so that I can now go out and I can do his will. And again, now I feel honored that I was able to go through that and have the revelation about it that I have now, so I can turn around and I can walk this thing out with other brothers and sisters in Mashiach when they're going through their wilderness or their trial or their testing. And I feel like that's what he wants us all to do. Walk with each other. Don't be selfish in your walk and be like, well, I went through it, now you got to go through it. Sometimes you might have to go through it and figure it out because he's teaching you to be a leader. So you can turn around and you can lead people through the wilderness, Moses. Sorry, I'm going to leave it at that. I don't want to start preaching on here. That's not what this podcast is about. It's not about me. It's about Yahweh. So I'm going to leave it there. I love you guys. So once again, if you'd like to get in contact with me to just chat or be a guest on the episode, you can email me at replenishme@gmail.com, RIPLENISH me@gmail.com. You can also get in contact with me on my Instagram account. That's replenish, RIPLENISH, just replenish, not replenish me. And if you would like to subscribe to my YouTube channel, you don't have to subscribe. You can just visit. I don't really care about the subscription, but if you'd like to visit me on my YouTube channel, you can type in Hadassah. It's the picture of the lion and the lamb's split picture. And on there, I do, talk a little bit more about the Bible and different things that Yahweh leads me to speak on there. But this is supposed to just be like, kind of like an inspirational, you know what? I'm not even going to say all that. I'm going to let it be whatever he says it is and just leave it at that. Okay. I love you guys. Have a great rest of the day, afternoon, or evening, depending on when you're listening to this. Today is Shabbat. So for those of you who do observe the Sabbath, Shabbat Shalom. I love you guys, and Shalom Aleichem.